Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gohmert. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group, located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, we've got some business to attend to. We're looking, as usual, over to our mind map, and you can see the title of the show is Rejected. Rejected is the word of the day. Why? Because there was a new ruling out of the Trump Mar-a-Lago FBI raid seizure saga that we've been spending a lot of time here on this channel discussing. But Donald Trump, he had some very favorable orders that actually came out, and we're going to go through that in detail today. So I want to show you several different documents that we are going to take a look at. One is going to be the Trump objection to the case management plan. And the case management plan was something that we already read through the government's version of this. The government got, what is going on over here? Hold on, I'm getting some bit rate warnings over here. And I don't know why that might be. Is everything good on your end, folks? Everything working okay? Can everybody see me? All right. Making sure it's all good. Bonnie says, is Rob late again? No, I'm working. Can you guys see me and hear me? Is it functioning? Adam K says it's laggy on my end. School the World says good. K Bean says good. Everybody says good. Everybody says it looks good. All right. That's weird. Okay. Bonnie said, is Rob late? All right. We're making sure we're good. All right, we're good. Zach Nichols says we're good too. Okay, so we can get into it. All right. So as you can see, we've got several different things to get to. We're going to start with Donald Trump's objections because him and his defense team filed several documents on September 28th that we're going to take a look at. Lean says we're good. Everybody's saying we're good. All right. So we're going to go through that. Donald Trump, of course, had some objections that he filed, which we will get into. And then the big ruling came out from Judge Aileen Cannon. And this actually, I think, caught a lot of people by surprise. People were thinking that Cannon was just going to rubber stamp whatever Special Master Raymond Dearie was going to do. You know, Raymond Dearie has like a lot more experience than Judge Aileen Cannon does. And so they were saying that there was going to be an objection from Trump's team that was just going to get overlooked by Special Master Raymond Dearie and by Judge Aileen Cannon. But it turns out Special Master Raymond Dearie sort of got overruled. And so we'll take a look at that as soon as we get in there. And yeah, it looks like the stream is sort of working some of the kinks out there. I can see it on my end over there from Restream. Yeah. Huh. All right. Yeah, so I use, just so those of you who know what's going on, I use what's called Restream. And Restream is telling me that this looks great right now. It says that the stream feed is excellent, but YouTube says things are not looking so good on YouTube. So I'm not sure where the error is. Uncle Shane says it's laggy on YouTube. Try Rumble. If YouTube's bad, try Rumble because I'm getting an error on YouTube, but no errors on. Here's what my Restream looks like, just so you can see what I see. Right here, see this? It says excellent, good bit rate, good everything. It looks live. It looks like everything is perfect. So I don't really know what the lag is all about. Lean says it's buffering a bit on YouTube. Oh, weird. Uncle Shane says laggy. Yeah, it's going down. I don't know why that might be. Let's see. Let's see if I can figure this out. Now, how about over on Rumble? Is it any better over on Rumble? C. Reed says checking Rumble. It's buffering a lot. It's cutting out. YouTube is restricting the stream. Huh. Zach Nichols says it's buffering over there too. Is it working on Rumble? Does it look okay on Rumble? Yeah, let's see how Rumble's looking. Weird. All right, well, go on over to Rumble. Yeah, head on over to Rumble. I think it's working on Rumble. Rumble has no lag. Only on YouTube. Weird. All right, so we'll just keep going and try running on over to Rumble because I think Rumble is working. Yeah, Speech Unleashed says, went over to Rumble, stream is fine on Rumble. All right. So, yeah, Rumble looks good. C. Reed says Rumble looks good. Okay, so everything's good on Rumble. I don't know what the deal is with YouTube, but we'll just keep on going, my friends. So, hopefully YouTube figures its stuff out, but Rumble seems like it's good. But now it's having problems. Let me check my internet. Make sure that we're okay over here. We'll do a quick speed test before we jump into the program. I hate this crap. Rumble is buffering now. All right, let me... Yeah, I don't know what the deal is because... Georgia says that Rumble still sounds good. Speech says Rumble is still good. All right. All right, let me... Sound is great. Speech says Rumble's okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Let me see if I can turn it off. And okay, Savdi says I refreshed and it's fine. All right, so we're just going to keep going. It says that it's okay on my end, at least on Restream. So I think we'll just keep on going. Jay, they're giving me grief over there. All right, so yeah, I don't know what's going on. Here, let me... All right, C. Reed says Rumble's good. Let me drop in the Rumble link in case you guys want to hop over to Rumble. And that's the Rumble link. I'm going to pin it. There's the Rumble link pinned. Okay. And everybody on Rumble says it's good. All right. John McGarvey says it's good. All right. So we'll just keep on going, my friends. Now, I apologize for that. Hopefully, YouTube figures its business out. But as you can see, we've got some more business to attend to. We have our second segment. It's going to all be about the Republicans, the GOP. They are really getting aggressive, pushing back against the DOJ, pushing back against the FBI. And they're saying that they have been getting more and more whistleblowers that have been coming to them. In particular, we're talking about Representative Louie Gohmert, who said that there was a sort of a whole slew of additional problems that he has been able to identify. And he called the FBI sort of like Sodom and Gomorrah, sort of like Sodom and Gomorrah type of a thing. So pretty colorful language there. We're going to check in with Jim Jordan. We're going to check in with Scott Perry. We're going to check in with Zoe Lofgren. Remember, she was on the January 6th Select Committee, and she had a lot of issues with Donald Trump. But there was a bill that was making its way through Congress today, and it actually passed. And it was really going to be funding the DOJ and the FBI with another $140 million or something like that. So we'll take a look at exactly what's going on. There were some pretty wild clips that came out of the White House today. You may have seen Joe Biden was speaking in front of FEMA, and FEMA had to sort of, they sort of freaked out there. You could see the FEMA administrator almost grabs the president as he sort of wanders off there. She almost grabs him, like the Secret Service maybe could have jumped in on him or something, but didn't look so good. Kamala Harris is ringing in our new alliance with the North Koreans, which is a wild thing to watch. And of course, we have the Webb telescope, which was the subject of Kamala Harris's invitation, her meeting with some of these soldiers over there at the DMZ. And so we'll take a look at that. And then in our final segment, we're going to talk about this Army officer. You can see a photograph of this individual right here on the screen. And as we get into this, pretty interesting indictment came out. We've got the ex-Army major and his wife, and they actually use the pronoun he, so don't kill me, YouTube. But we are going to take a look at this because him and his wife, and they use he because that's what he used in the court proceedings today when he got indicted. He is facing some wild charges, conspiracy, and sort of apparently trying to collude with the Russians. Yeah. And we'll also see his wife, Anna Gabrielian, is another individual who also got charged, and it is a wild story. So we'll get into that and more. And if you want to be a part of the show, the best place to do that is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where they are chatting away. Say, who's over there? We've got Jason on blast. We have Bonnie Specs in the house. Says, let's rumble, baby. John McGarvey's over there. Crash Bandits in the house, along with many others chatting away. C. Reed's over there as well. And so you can join our community over there. You can also join on YouTube. Click that join button, although today's YouTube is being not very nice to us. But as you know, usually I sort of spend some time telling you about our communities. But I want to invite you to consider donating to ericshouse.org this week and next week. We are just a short time away from World Mental Health Day, which is going to be on October 10th. We are honoring it or commemorating it on October 8th over at Eric's House. There's a fundraiser that I have linked in the descriptions below. I am matching all fundraising that comes in through this channel. And we are going to be donating money to Eric's House, right? It's all going over to ericshouse.org. It is intended to, the organization helps people who've lost somebody due to suicide, overdose, or tragic death. And there's a lot of amazing work that is done over there. And I want to thank everybody who's donated thus far. Look at this. We are up to $2,100 in total. And if I'm matching that, it's $4,200 in total. So yesterday was quite an expensive show. A total of $982 came in yesterday. Woo, baby. That's going to be a lot of hope and healing that happens over there at Eric's House. And I am extremely grateful for your help. And also, don't forget that I am a criminal defense lawyer over at the R&R Law Group, and we help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their cases, but beyond that in their lives. We offer free case evaluations for anybody in the state of Arizona who needs help facing any type of criminal charge. We can help. Traffic tickets, domestic stuff, any type of drug-related offense, assaults, anything that happens in Old Town Scottsdale, you know what I mean? We can help with that. 480-787-0394, and we appreciate all of your support. All right, my friends, and so now let's get into it for the day. And thank you to Anonymous, who just donated over to Eric's House, a big $20 dono over there. Very grateful. I'm going to be matching that, and it's all going to be going to good causes. All right. And so, as you can see, we can now get into the meat and potatoes of the program. Donald Trump judge Aileen Cannon rejected parts of the special master's case management plan, causing a lot of eyebrows out there in the legal world to go, what? You're kidding me. Many were thinking that Judge Cannon was just going to rubber stamp anything that came out of Special Master Raymond Dearie's office because it's a special master and he's got all this experience and he's somebody who's been on the bench a lot longer than Aileen Cannon was. And so we're seeing sort of this seniority battle play out. And we covered on this channel previously the actual case management plan that was proffered forward by Special Master Dearie. And remember, Dearie said, hey, government, you're going to go and fill out this spreadsheet. You're going to make it look all good. All the stuff that you took out of Trump's residence, go put it in a chart and label it for us. And when you're done with that, send it over to Trump's team. And Trump, this is your last opportunity. You got to go through this list and you got to vet it and corroborate it and make sure it's good and all these things. And Trump is saying, hold on a minute. I don't even know what they took. And I've got the presumption of innocence and I've got all of these protections and executive privilege and I've got Presidential Records Act and I have declassified these things anyways. And so why do I have to present this evidence when they haven't made their showing first? And there's been this back and forth and around we go. And so yesterday we had talked about the order that was proposed by the special master that went into the court. And Trump and his team are now responding to it. They are objecting to it. This is the letter to Judge Dearie from Donald Trump's defense team. You can see it's drafted September 28th. It's 5 pages long. And it's regarding the special master and the government's requests for some modifications to the case management plan and to process all of the materials that were seized. Trump's defense team says, dear judge, While Trump does not object to the government's request for additional time, its recent submission represents an inefficient, multi-step process that's ultimately going to lead to the adoption of a more realistic schedule, like the one that we suggested from the start. And remember that this was a complicated process. There was all these sort of checks and balances, and put the spreadsheet here and fill the spreadsheet out here, and then transfer it over to these people, then to those people, and so on. And it takes time for all of this stuff to be done. And so, as we've talked about on this channel, prosecutors are very, they're kind of, they're kind of dorks out there, if I can be real blunt about it. And shout out to all the prosecutors out there. You know how much I love you. But, you're come on, let's be real about it. And defense attorneys are much like this. They just say, hey, these weirdos, they're doing all of this mechanical maneuvering, and they say, we had already told you it's going to take a long time. And we said that from the very beginning. They say, at the status conference before the special master, the plaintiff suggested that the dates put forth in the draft case management plan were unlikely to prove feasible in terms of both the likely start of the document flow and the man hours necessary to review more than 11,000 pages or documents. Now, they're saying that this is going to take a lot of work, and we're trying to figure out the best, most efficient process. Trump's defense says, indeed, Trump suggested that a rough rule of thumb in document reviews is 50 pages per hour. We've done this before, they're saying, and this is the standard. Building into his calculations the review and the categorization of the filter team documents, the successful recruitment, retention, and the startup operation of a data vendor. Remember, because all of these thousands of pages of documents, they're not, Trump's lawyers are not going through this, and the prosecutors are not going through this. There are companies that do this, and they're going to go label everything and organize it all for them. And Trump's people are saying, we got to get them going and get them up to speed, because this is going to be a big problem. And they say, you also got to get them going, start them up, the requisite review, the categorization of the documents. All of this suggests a mid-October date as completion. And they say that government, those prosecutors, Judge, they assured Your Honor that a minimal adjustment of quote, only a couple days was all that was needed. But otherwise, the plan was perfectly acceptable. Right. And so he's sort of blasting them right here. He's saying, Judge, they want additional time, but they came in and told you they didn't need additional time, that everything is basically good. Right. That everything is if we have to modify anything, it's only going to be around the margins. Now, Trump's defense, they say, Judge, now, for the second time since its blithe dismissal of practical experience, since they just shoved us in the garbage, they said the government comes to the court to readjust deadlines. Prosecutors are back. Judge, they came the first time, they're back again. And again, the government requests the plaintiffs more realistic deadlines as unnecessary. So they're asking again for an extension, but they don't want to go as far out as Trump. To be clear, they say, we think the prosecutor working with Trump's lawyers to navigate this process and beginning all of this is acting expeditiously and in good faith. So they say, look, we don't think the government is trying to delay this, or to intentionally stonewall this or drag their feet. We think that they are moving quickly. We think that they are acting in good faith. However, the overall position of the government continues to be overly optimistic and aggressive in terms of the timing, which is why Trump respectfully renews his position that the mid-October deadline is a realistic final production deadline. It is actually, we can push it out, that far enough, Judge. You can do that. Stop making us come back in and ask for these little minor marginal extensions. They came back the first time and said they needed more time. You gave it to them. They came back the second time and said they needed more time. You gave it to them. So why don't you just do what we said in the first place and bump it all the way out till middle of October? The problem is compounded by the fact that when Trump's lawyers referred to either 11,000 pages or even 11,000 documents, now do you see this distinction here? 11,000 pages or 11,000 documents. They're not the same thing. They kind of look like they might be, but they're not. And they say when Trump brought this up during the status conference at the last setting, we're still awaiting the transcript, they say, by the way, in quotations, in parentheses. They say, hey, pages or documents. We had an argument about this at the last setting, but we're waiting for the transcripts. We still haven't gotten those yet. The government chose not to inject with an accurate number, interject. So Is it 11,000 documents? Because a document can have many pages, right? 11,000, you can have a document, like a Word document, that is 50 pages, 1,000 pages long, and you call it a document. If it's 1,000 pages, you might call that a book or something, but right, you could still have a document that has many pages to it. In conversations between Trump's lawyer and the government regarding a data vendor, the government mentioned that the 11,000 documents, okay, contain closer to 200,000 pages. Oh my goodness. I couldn't even highlight that. I was so excited. Closer to 200,000 pages. So 11,000 documents, we've been told, is actually a whole lot more than that. And that makes sense, right? They came out of there with a whole bunch of boxes. 200,000 pages of documents. That estimated volume, with a need to operate under the accelerated time frame supported by the government, is the reason why so many of the government-selected vendors have declined the potential engagement, right? It's not about they don't want to work with Trump. It's that they don't have the capability or something, it sounds like, to do all of this in the compressed time frame that is needed. In short, Trump's defense says, Judge, seasoned IT professionals who routinely work on large-scale document productions with the government cannot meet the government's proposed schedule. They can't do it. And it was never realistic for the government to suggest such a narrow time frame. And so consequently, they say, Trump respectfully requests, Judge, Your Honor, Raymond Dearie, that the parties will be best served by having retained a vendor to convey a supportable time frame of scanning roughly 200,000 pages into a platform, and also provide a breakdown and a rollout of quantities and proposed deadlines. It would be better to base the deadlines on actual data and not wistful claims by the government, they say. The government also uses this opportunity now of asking for an extension of the deadlines to lecture Trump's lawyers with conclusory and antagonistic comments regarding Trump's filed objections to the case management plan. Trump's defense says, these prosecutors continue to mistake itself as having judicial authority. They and its comments are not argument, but they are proclamations designed to steamroll judicial oversight and Trump's constitutional rights. Along those lines, they say, by participating in this litigation, the plaintiff Trump has not waived and cannot be deemed to have waived any of his rights under the federal rules, including under the Constitution, right? Yeah, and they're saying, look, Trump is entitled to due process. He's entitled to file and litigate these claims. But they're saying that they're making, Trump's defense is making the argument that the government is saying Trump is, usurping the process. And we've covered this at length. They've, in their arguments, been very conclusory. They've been saying Trump, a judge, Trump has no standing. Trump has no even basis because he doesn't even own the property. And Trump says, we're litigating that, dummies. You can't just come to that conclusion that's never been litigated anywhere. And Trump's defense is reiterating that argument. They continue. They say the prosecutor's lawyers, the government counsel, and their commentary regarding their compliance and our responsibilities misses the mark. Remember, in the previous letter that came over from the government, they were sort of making suggestions to Trump's team. They said, we suggest that you brief this, and we suggest that you brief that. And they're saying, yeah, okay, we know what we're doing. Why don't you mind your own business? A filter team, writes Trump's defense, also known as a taint team, owes its very existence to the notion that using non-case agents and non-case attorneys is the best way to shield the agents and the attorneys from disqualification based on accidental exposure to the privileged documents. If somebody sees a document they're not supposed to see, they get removed from the case. And of course, the government only has so many people and they don't want that to happen. Judge Cannon has already noted, quote, that the privileged team report references at least 2 instances in which members of the team were exposed to materials that was then delivered to the privileged team. This is the point where Judge Cannon, in her original order appointing the special master, remember, the government was saying, Judge, you can trust us. We don't need anybody looking over our shoulder. We don't need a referee to manage this process. We know what we're doing. The DOJ says, you can trust us. And Judge Cannon said, not really. you guys already have two instances where your investigative team were exposed to materials that were delivered to the privilege team. Okay, so in other words, the privilege team did not filter the material appropriately. So the judge is saying, so I don't trust you because even in this very case, there have been two instances that have been problematic. Trump's team, of course, is highlighting that. They say on Monday, September 26, lawyers for the privilege team provided Trump's lawyers with another example of a filter failure. The email in question was identified, quote, by the FBI case team and returned to the privilege team, which is characterizing the communication as non-privileged, right? So the FBI investigators, they come across this email. They say, this email's fine. It's not privileged. They give it over to the privilege team. Trump says Trump believes the email falls squarely into the category of attorney-client privilege. They said it's not privileged. Trump says, yes, it is. The government also provided the special master and Trump with its third version of the inventory in this case, with 53 new documents, clippings, and folders or photos appearing across 16 of the 33 item numbers. And I thought it was 63 because that's what the Epoch Times came out with when they did their math, but maybe somebody's math is off by a 10. Easy to do. They're saying 53 new documents. So when the FBI went and seized all the documents the first time, they didn't capture everything. They made mistakes and they submitted it again. And they're saying there were additional mistakes is what Trump's team is saying. A prior entry for 2 empty folders with, quote, classified banners has disappeared from item number 33. Where'd that one go? Why did item number 33 originally have this line in it, but now it doesn't? Oh, yeah. Because some dumb FBI agent can't manage evidence is what every single defense attorney is thinking out there right now. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe they put it in there. Maybe they took it out. Maybe they're manipulating the evidence. Maybe they pulled them all out of the boxes and threw them all over the ground for their little photo op. The unilaterally imposed filter team, writes Trump's defense, which made no effort at all to contact Trump's lawyers through its review process, has admitted to 3 breaches so far. All this before review by the special master and by Trump. And by way of this filing, they say Trump is asking the special master to order disclosure of the names of each attorney and every special agent who was exposed to materials that were eventually given over to the privilege review team. And finally, James Trusty for Donald Trump says the government chose to include in its public filing references to our objections to the amended case management plan. And they say that was sent directly to Chambers as a letter saying, Judge, we sent you a letter under seal privately, and then these jerk DOJ members at the DOJ, when they responded to this, they referenced our filed material that was filed under seal. In other words, we wanted it to be secret, but they talked about the secret stuff out publicly. And they say, we sent that directly to your chambers, Judge. A copy of our letter is enclosed here. And they say, for consistent treatment and to preserve those objections before your judge, we sent that over. We remain available to discuss all of these things. Otherwise, we're going to continue to review and categorize these documents as soon as we get them in an effort to expeditiously complete this under the federal rules. Signed by James Trusty out there, law firm in Washington, D.C. Lindsay Halligan's also on this list. She's out of Fort Lauderdale. And M. Evan Corcoran. Of course, we know who he is. But do you notice who's not on this? Oh, yeah, Christopher Kesey. No Christopher Kesey on this list. Interesting. All of this being copied over to Jay Bratt, Edelstein, and many others we've already followed, along with the certificate of service. That is Donald Trump and his defense team's objections to Judge Raymond Dearie's special master, his case management plan. And they submitted, in addition to this, the letter that they sent previously. This is the 3-page letter that was filed under seal, sent directly to Judge Raymond Dearie's chambers that was referenced by government prosecutors. They say, Dear Judge Dearie, through the undersigned counsel, Donald Trump provides his position to your plan. To help with finding facts, they say that the appointing order authorized a declaration or an affidavit by a government official regarding the accuracy of the detailed property inventory. This is very important. Remember that Judge Dearie, who is the special master, said that both sides need to declare the accuracy of the property inventory. We want a final list of everything that was actually taken so that we can start working off of that list. If we're going to start fighting over, is this attorney-client privilege? Is this a presidential record or a personal record? Is this classified or declassified? We got to know what the entire list looks like before we start separating them out. And so the special master said, okay, government, they're going to make their list. They've modified it 3 times apparently. And then they're going to send that over to Trump. And they're going to say, Trump, now you have to also claim that this is final, right? Trump says, we object to that. We don't want to do that. They say, here, Judge, you ordered us to provide all of this and to communicate to you whether this signed document represents a full and accurate accounting of the property that was seized from Mar-a-Lago. They say the appointing order contemplated no corresponding declaration or affidavit by Trump because the special master's case management plan exceeds the grant of authority on this issue. They say Trump must object. Additionally, Trump currently has no means of accessing the documents bearing the classification markings, which would be necessary to complete any such certification by September 30th, the currently proposed date of the completion. So Trump was ordered to provide this material, and he does not want to do it. He says the appointing order provides that the special master review all of these materials and that Trump is going to categorize the document into one of these 4 categories. Number 1, personal items that are not privileged, personal documents that are privileged, presidential records that are not privileged, and then presidential records that are privileged, right? They have the final list and then they put them into different buckets. They say because the amended case management plan, right? They're saying, hey, Judge Dearie, you're going outside of the scope of the original order. You're saying, so say here, we've got several different things we have to clarify. I think I kind of skipped over this a little bit quickly. Remember, this is the appointing order. This is not the Raymond Dearie order. So Judge Aileen Cannon issued one order that appointed Special Master Dearie. Special Master Dearie then created a case management plan and made some proposals in the case management plan. In the case management plan, that's where he was saying, Trump, you have to confirm the list is what the list is. Trump's defense is saying, Aileen Cannon did not require us to do that in the original order, right? Saying that the original order had no corresponding requirement in there. Judge Raymond Dearie, you're adding that in. You're adding that additional layer, saying we have to fill this out. Judge Cannon never told us we have to do that. And they're also saying, Judge Raymond Dearie, you're saying you want us to do all of this other stuff, but Judge Cannon only said these categories. And so don't tell us to put them into different buckets if that's the only thing that she said. And she has the original power. Dearie can't go outside of the scope. He can only go, the room is only so big. He can't go outside of that. And he's trying to do that. And so Trump's team says, all right, look, Judge Dearie, they say, look, because the amended case management plan that you just came up with goes beyond the grant of authority in the original appointment of you, the special master, and it suggests an allocation into one of 6 categories, we object, meaning Trump objects. Aileen Cannon said 4 categories. Judge Dearie, you're saying 6? Where'd that come from? That's bigger than what Judge Cannon gave you permission to do. We object. Consistent with the appointment order, they say plaintiff, Trump's counsel, intends to allocate the documents into the 4 categories identified by the district court. They say as the appointment order also authorizes you to make recommendations regarding executive privilege, we're also going to provide assertions and bases for that privilege as well. But we see no basis for segmenting that privilege as described in your amended plan. So, Judge, we're going to do what the actual judge told us to do. Special Master, we're not listening to you. We're listening to Aileen Cannon. We have paragraph 3, section 3. They say Trump reserves all rights under the law and all the applicable rules and the legal equitable relief that are available for the search and seizure of his home. And by initiating this action, Trump does not waive any of those rights available to any citizen under the law. And just because he is litigating this, it doesn't mean that he's suddenly open and fair game for anything goes. Trump's defense says, as noted in our proposed agenda in advance of our last status conference, we reiterate in our view that Judge Cannon, the original judge, was aware of the likelihood of litigation and established a process by which the special master would evaluate the claims before making recommendations to the court. And they're saying that litigation and reports on that should be provided to the court. The district court's decision to exercise this authority over matters surrounding Mar-a-Lago's search warrant was a hotly contested component of the litigation to date, and as was the establishment of a special master. There is no indication in the appointment order that the district court is contemplating a carve-out of related litigation for a merits determination, and they say we respectfully suggest the briefing requirement be withdrawn from your final plan, meaning we don't even want to talk about that because it's not relevant at all. Saying the court, the lower level court, the district court has already decided this, and so we don't need to brief it. They say, all right, Judge, that's our opinion. Basically, we object to all of your plan. Thank you for the opportunity to address our concerns with your plan, and we look forward to continuing to review these materials. Signed by Donald Trump's defense team, James Trusty. Oh, but look who's here on this one, Christopher Kesey. Now, very interesting. Christopher Kesey signed on this one, and that was on September 25th, but Kesey is not on the September 28th filing on the same header. He was taken off. Very curious. Stuff like that is intentional. I wonder what happened there. And we already talked previously that CNN had sort of had a rumor that there may be some maneuvers happening there. But those were Donald Trump's objections. Okay, so those are the two things. They say we object to the special master plan. Trump was filing his objections over to the special master, and that second letter is what the government was referencing when they were talking about this stuff publicly. So saying, that's not appropriate for them to do that. They should have honored Trump's intent, which is to keep this stuff private to the judge. Instead, they didn't, right? They just sort of were airing all of that out publicly because they want everybody to see this, which is pretty inappropriate. Judge Aileen Cannon responds to the prosecutors and to Donald Trump and to Special Master Raymond Dearie, and is granting and rejecting different parts of the special master plan. This is the order from Judge Aileen Cannon in the Trump Mar-a-Lago search warrant case. You can see she submitted this on September 29th. It's 6 pages long, and this is her order accepting in part and rejecting in part the amended case management plan that came over from Special Master Raymond Dearie. This is the official order, and we've already seen several different interim reports and different filings hit the court docket. And this is Judge Cannon summarizing it all for us. She says, all right, this cause comes before this court. We have already talked about all of the documents that got us here. You can see all of these filings, the plan, Trump's objections. We got the government's rejections or a response to Trump's objections and the whole thing. But the judge is going to break this up into 3 parts. Cannon writes, in section 1, verification of the detailed property inventory. So we had just gotten done understanding how this works. Raymond Dearie said, go fill out the spreadsheet, government, turn it over to Trump. Trump, you verify it's done, make sure it's all valid, and then we move on. But Judge Cannon is going to rule on that. She says, okay, my order, the original order that appointed the special master, authorized the special master, Dearie, to verify the property that was identified and that it represents the full and accurate extent of the property seized on the premises, including stuff that was seized from the DOJ. Now, she says the court's order imposed no additional requirements on the parties regarding the detailed property inventory. All right. Saying the special master is authorized to verify that the property represents the actual property that was seized by getting affidavits from the DOJ. See that? The DOJ. The order doesn't say anything else about anybody else in the part, any other parties who were involved. Okay. It doesn't say also from Trump, also from anybody else. It says DOJ personnel. That's it. Following the court's order, The plan directed the defendant on or before 9/26 to supply a declaration or an affidavit as to whether it represents a full and accurate filing from the premises. They say the defendant, this is the government, has since complied with that requirement by filing a notice of the redacted affidavit, right? And saying the judge is going back through her original order and just reminding everybody what she said. And here she continues. She says, in addition to requiring the government, the defendant, to attest to the accuracy of the inventory, the plan also requires Trump on or before 9/30 to lodge authorities. Government makes